Hey, it's Eric from Alabama.
And I'm Jerry in Boston. We want to welcome our listeners from the United States and around the world. It's another Sunday podcast. You know, I find it amazing that what the listeners don't hear is the stuff that goes on before we actually edit this stuff out. So I think come December will be our 1 year anniversary. We got a number of months to go here if we last that long. But I think some of that stuff we're going to have to kind of put together in a little anniversary show or something, because some of the stuff that goes on before we actually hit record or before we actually air it, it's pretty funny. I think the listeners would like to hear you sing. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? And no one is going to hear me sing.
Hey, we're in the middle of March, and I don't know about the weather down in Alabama, but I can tell you that I've got windows open here. We're approaching 70 degrees. We're at the time we're we're at the point of that time of year here where one day it's going to be 70, one day it's going to be 40, next day it's going to be 70, next day it'll be 20. We're like kind of making that transition to spring. I'm excited. In fact, this episode, I believe, is airing on the first day of spring or the second day of spring, but so happy spring to our listeners.
Yes, I'm sitting here right now. It is 5:34 p.m. in Alabama and the sun is shining.
Isn't that incredible?
I know. It's amazing too, in the wintertime, it's dark. It gets dark at like 4:30 or something and it's cold, it's dark. In Alabama, it rains all the time in the wintertime, and it just gets you all depressed. And then spring comes, and even in the afternoon, it's sunny out, and you can go outside and relax, and the weather's great. And it's funny how the weather and the amount of light, the amount of daytime affects your mental health, and your outlook on life. It's weird, but it happens.
It's true, and then if you throw snow and really cold weather like we get up here in the Northeast, it can be depressing. I mean, we've now surpassed 1 year of since the shutdown of the United States due to COVID-19. I've been working from home now for a little over a year, so it can have an effect on your psyche. I mean, you have to find ways to keep yourself entertained. This podcast was born out of COVID-19. I went from being an Uber and a Lyft driver, right, to going to movies and to concerts and to sporting events, to nothing. And then just, you and I talk, of course, every Sunday night, even pre-pandemic, but for almost a couple of years now. And came up with this idea of, hey, why don't we do a podcast? And here we are. So this is one way to keep sane by doing something completely insane.
In the membrane. This isn't insane. How is this insane?
It's not insane. It just sounded like something to rhyme. I don't know. Now
It's not insane.
Is it outsane?
Yes.
Outsane.
Absolutely outsane.
That sounds. Hey, that's a great name for a band. If it's not already, it's called a band Outsane.
Dude, we're not insane. We're outsane.
Tonight it's Outcast with Outsane and Fallout Boy and Upsy Daisy or whatever. I don't know. We'll create our own little concert or something. Hey, before we get going on something, I just wanted to let folks know our good friend Taylor Bloom, who has been kind enough to share his episode of our show with his thousands of fans on on his YouTube channel, has increased our listenership, and we appreciate that. He's directing a play at the Soho Playhouse in New York City, Manhattan. It's going to be an interesting live stream show. I don't know that anything has been done like this before. At least I haven't heard of it. It's not your typical Zoom type meeting or show. You're going to get the impression and the feeling that you are literally in the theater. And I'm told that when you purchase tickets and you go to the show that night, you're going to feel like you're standing in line. You're going to feel like, I guess you could go to the virtual bathroom. And it's not to give away too much of what's going to happen, but it's not going to be your typical just flip on your screen and watch this play. It's from what Taylor has let me know, this is going to be a real fun adventure. The play is called The Garden, and it's described here in the website here. It says, next, in the middle of the woods, a cabin, long abandoned but rediscovered by Joan and Sam. In a play on the periphery of realism, two storytellers must decide between staying or going and what to do with the body. The ticket link is in the description of this episode and all of Taylor's episodes if you're interested. It is going to be performed on April the 1st through April the 4th. And again, the link for tickets is in the description. There's also a talk back with the artist that's going to directly follow each of the shows. So we wish him break a leg, they say in the theater business, right? Break a leg?
Yeah, where does that come from?
That's a good question. I'm sure there's a listener out there that's going to email us that answer.
Yeah, not John Wilkes Booth, because he was an actor and he broke a leg on stage, but that was that was something completely different.
If that definitely ended up differently. If there's a listener out there, though, that does have the answer to that, send us an email. It's another SundayPodcast@gmail.com. And let us know, where did the origin of break a leg? Why do we say that? We don't say good luck, we say break a leg to folks performing in the theater.
Yeah. My dad always used to say that when I was doing a gig. He'd be like, hey, break a leg. And I was like, screw you. No.
My friends used to say it all the time to me, but I think they really wanted me to break my leg. I had some really, some really good friends.
It's like, I don't know. If you go out on stage, why would you tell somebody to break a leg? There's got to be something. There's got to be some story behind that or whatever, because that seems like the wrong thing to say to someone who's going to go on stage.
There is definitely a significance to it. And I just thinking off the top of my head, craziness, it could be something as crazy as somebody literally broke a leg on stage and the show went on to be this major hit and millions of dollars were made and they just said, that's a good luck charm, It's like, they say if a bird poops on you or something, it's supposed to be good luck. I don't know. But
I must have really, really good luck.
So listen, let's let the listeners know a little bit about what's been going on in your life over the last several months. As they all know that you are in college and that you have been doing some studying and for your master's degree, and you recently completed a huge undertaking. Tell us and our listeners about what it is you've done and where you're at now and what the next step is.
Well, I'm currently in my last semester of getting my master's for education, which at this point, you can get a bachelor's in education and you can get your teaching certificate that way. But I got a bachelor's degree in history and then later, several years later, decided to go back and get my teaching degree so that I can teach high school. And so this is the last semester of my master's degree in education. And so I'm getting my certificate, and I have to complete what's known as EdTPA. I don't know exactly what that stands for, but it's basically a big project where you have to teach 3 to 5 days within a school, and um, you submit your lesson plans, and you video yourself, and you submit the tests that you gave the students, and you submit all this material to to EdTPA, and they look at the effectiveness and the how proficient you are as a teacher, and this is for certification here in Alabama, and it's a quite a big project. I will say that um, for me personally, it is the hardest thing I have ever had to do in college, hands down. And I've written 20-page papers, before, and my history degree compared to this was a breeze. But this is the hardest thing that I've ever had to do in college. And rightfully so. I mean, if you're going to go teach kids, you better know what you're going to do. You better know your stuff. So I can, you know, I can vouch for it. But I have been super busy with that the past month and a half, 2 months. Well, month and a half, mostly. Well, no, yeah, about a month and a half. So month and a half, a little bit over 2 months. So, um, but yes, it has been a nightmare, and for me personally, so I think some of the other students that are doing their student teaching right now, um, had a better time with it than I did, but at the same time, it's still a lot of work, and but I submitted it Monday, so we will hear back soon on whether I passed or not. But yes, it is a big deal. So
Well, congratulations on finishing it. I'm sure that certificate is on its way. So,
I hope
in,
so.
in addition, but in addition to all of that work that you had to put in for this and the lesson plans and things, I know you and I have spoken a few times in the middle of this, and I could just tell from the short conversations that we've had how busy and stressed you were. And on top of all of this, you were still having to go to school some days and physically teach kids in a classroom. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So in addition to doing this, I also had to teach full days, like an entire day of teaching school. And to be honest with you, that's kind of the easy part. But the EdTPA stuff on top of that was a little stressful, quite stressful. So and
And and I'm not sure if you mentioned it or not, but you're actually will become a certified teacher. Is it certified in a certain subject?
certified in Alabama, and well, yes, for social studies. So yes, and that's the way it works. Like the program I'm in now, it's the alternative masters in education, and they call it the 5th year program, but really it's more like a year and a half to 2 years. I think I think it's almost 2 years since I started this.
And this
I think
is
that's
this it now? Once this
yes. If I
semester's over,
pass, yes, if I pass this semester and my TPA stuff and all that stuff, then I will be certified in the state of Alabama to teach middle school and high school social studies.
and you have a preference of middle school or high school or just
High
money?
school,
High school? Yeah,
high school.
yeah.
I've middle school is not. I went prior to going into the master's program. I substituted a little bit, and I have to say that substitute teaching has got to be one of the most difficult jobs on the face of the planet. And it's not. Um, and I never really wanted to be a teacher when I was in school. When I was in high school, that was the last thing on the face of the planet that I ever wanted to do, was to teach school. And when I went to college, I was a history major. And when I told people, I would tell them I was in college, and they would say, you know, oh, you want to be a teacher? And I'm like, no. That was the last thing on the face of the planet that I ever wanted to do, was go be a high school teacher. No, no. I had spent years, 12 years in school. The last thing I want to do is go back into school.
When
And
when did you change your mind
well, a
and want to
lot of
become a
it
teacher?
was, yeah, a lot of it was, I went when I graduated college. I had a history degree, and you know, there's that realization when I went into college. It was more like, this is what I need to do. I was part of that every kid goes to college generation,
Right.
um, and where they pushed us to go to college, and in some ways, it was almost like, if you don't go to college, you don't really care about your future. At least that's the way it came across, the way it was handled. And that's totally not true. A lot of people who did not go to college but learned a trade like welding or plumbing or something, carpentry, yeah, they're making good money. And well before I was, my little sister, she had somebody that graduated in her class, and he went to welding school. And my sister was at the same college I'm going to now, the same college I went to, and she was getting an art degree. And while she was taking out student loans to get an art degree, he was already through welding school. He had a nice house, a wife, a nice car, a boat, a job, a well-paying job. He was successful, while my little sister was, you know, going in debt to get an art degree, which is not incredibly all that useful. Um, depending on what you go into, graphic design could be, more marketable. But so my point is that college is good, and it depends on what you want to do. And if what you like to do and what you want to do requires a college degree, absolutely do it. Go for it. Do what you got to do. Work your way through college. Get scholarships and everything. But my both of my parents, neither of them went to college, and so for me, and especially, I come from kind of an artsy family, and my interests were writing and literature and history and music. Well, you can't do anything with those without a degree. So, so my butt went to college, and they pushed for me to go to college, and so I went. And when I signed up, I did not want to do a general ed major. A lot of the people that did a gen ed thing, it seemed to me, when I was signing up for college, it seemed like a waste of time. And so I just choose something, or I just chose something rather. Um,
So
but
you didn't go to college right out of high school, right? Did you go into the?
yes, no, I
Oh,
did.
you
Well, I went to
did.
basic training.
Okay.
So I missed a semester of college.
Okay.
I applied my senior year and got accepted to Montevallo, and but I had already enlisted in the military, in the National Guard, and so that summer I went to basic training. I graduated basic training in October or September of that year after I graduated, and then I went to college in the spring of that year, of the next year. So I graduated in it was '09. So I went to basic training in the summer of '09, graduated in the fall of '09, and then in the spring of 2010 I went to college. So, and
When were you deployed?
I deployed from 2012 to 2013, so
Okay.
it would have been August August of 2012 to May of 2013 is when I deployed. So, and that, I graduated college in May of 2015. So the deployment, you know, set me back a year or so. But, so I was a little behind, but, and it was funny too, especially after getting out of basic training. I was down at Fort Benning, Georgia, and infantry basic training down there for what was it 14 weeks 14 weeks I was there. And you get up at 4:30 every morning and do PT. Waking up at 6 o'clock was sleeping in. And I went to my first day at the University of Montevallo, first day of college, and it was not my first class started at 9 o'clock. And I'm like, heck yeah, I can sleep in 9 o'clock, yeah. And I got there early, like 15 minutes early. And I remember these kids strolling in their pajamas, half asleep. And, and my professor was like, I know that it's hard to come to school at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is awesome. I get to go to school at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's so cool. And so anyway, yeah, I just randomly chose a history major, a history degree. And I liked history, but I could have easily have chosen an English degree. I was actually kind of flip flopping between the two. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do English or if I want to do history. I just kind of chose history because almost the luck of the draw. It's just what I chose. And so I graduated in 2015 and had no clue what I wanted to do. And I went to work at a wood shop here in Wilsonville, and that was a great experience, and I loved it. I mean, being creative in the sense that I got to, you know, build these doors. We made custom doors with mortise and tenon joints and all this stuff. It's a family owned business, and the high quality doors that they do, and but I loved doing that. And but the thing is that as I was doing music with Phil and the band and everything, the more we got to doing music, the more I realized that there's a very good chance that this is not going to go anywhere. you know, um, that music is not going. I mean, I already knew that music wasn't going to pay the bills, but it's like there's a very good chance that we may stay in Columbiana, Alabama, and never be successful with music. Um, so there was that realization where it's like, I got to do something. I need a job. I need security, and I need a job where, first of all, I can continue doing music. It gives me the flexibility and the time to do music. Second of all, I need to do something positive in life. Like, my work needs to be meaningful. Third of all, I need to put my history degree to use. Fourth of all, I need to be able to support myself and or a family when I get one. And so those four considerations over time, and it took a while, but I began to consider being a history teacher. And so eventually I decided I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my teaching degree and go to and become a history teacher for high school. And so that's what I'm doing now.
So
And well, go ahead.
once you have graduated, is there a job placement? Do you have a job now that you just jump into, or you now
Well,
is it you have to wait? Or Alabama, you can go anywhere in the state and become a teacher, right?
well, I could go anywhere in the state. Yeah, if I'm certified in Alabama, I could go anywhere in the state. I would like to teach locally. I would love to teach in Columbiana. That is,
Oh, it's given
and
back. It's given back to the community. I have friends who
yeah,
went through all of the the whole public school system here in town, who are now teaching and working with, in some cases, they're working with teachers they had when they were in school. So
Yeah.
they're actually
Well,
now colleagues instead of teacher students. It's pretty.
yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, and in so in Columbiana, the high school I went to that high school in Columbiana, Shelby County High School. That's where I went to school. That's where I graduated from. And some of the people that I graduated with are teachers there now.
Right.
And it's weird. And that's where I'm doing my my internship, my student teaching. That's where I'm doing it now, And it's just in some ways it's weird. I've kind of gotten over the weirdness of it, of being in the school that I graduated from, and being there with the teachers that I graduated with. But and like I said, the teaching was the last thing on the face of the planet I wanted to do. But now that I'm doing it, now that I'm able to be in the classroom and teach, I'm finding that I'm really enjoying it, and that it's something that I think I will really enjoy and like. And so it's kind of weird. The last thing that I ever wanted to do, it seems like that's what somehow I'm supposed to do. That's what I'm really kind of enjoying. And like I said, it's fun to be in the classroom. I mean, I get to talk about history, all day.
Well, I guess it would.
What's wrong with that?
I
It's
guess it
fun.
would be for me. That was the worst subject in school for me was history, U.S. history. I aced. I loved U.S. history, current events, local government. That I
Yeah,
enjoyed. I did not do well at all in history when you talked about going back to whatever I think they called it social studies when I was in high school.
okay.
And so you start off in the the 1500s or something, and then it's like,
Yeah.
well, when am I ever going to use that? Why do I need this knowledge? But I hated history. But
Well,
math was and recess were my two favorite subjects. Oh, and
yeah.
lunch.
Yeah. Lunch, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I always got an A in lunch.
When when did you when do you graduate? Sometime in May?
May, yeah, in May. And right now, I need to go ahead and get my application in for jobs and everything. So, but this next month, I'll be working on that, getting my application in and everything. So, but we'll see what happens. I got to see if I pass the EdTPA thing. But yeah, it's just rolling with the changes,
Well, again,
Uh,
I'm sure you're going to do fine. I know you put in a lot of work. I can certainly attest to the amount of work just from talking to you and listening to the stuff. I mean, my head was just ready to explode just listening to the work that you had to put into it. So congratulations for finally getting through all of that in one piece
well, thank
and
you.
continuing to do a podcast.
Well, you made it easy for me, Jerry. So thank you.
Once this whole pandemic thing is over, we'll have a big graduation party for you, and who knows, maybe we'll be in the same room doing a podcast, somewhere down in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
Listen, we've come to the end of this episode. Again, time flies when you're having fun. So much more to talk about. Interesting life that you lead there, my friend. We get a lot of folks that ask me, Eric doesn't talk much, so I'm glad you were able to shut me up and and actually tell us a very interesting story. So it's great to have you back. I missed you a couple of weeks ago when we did the episode without you. So
Well, if I had been a little bit better about my time management, I may not have had to pull such late night.
you and I, we talked about this. You and I are the same, and when it comes to if we got everything done 2 days before, we'd probably fail. Right?
Yes.
I'm never successful unless I'm racing around. When I do these podcasts, for example, that drop on a Sunday, and I'm up at midnight, 1:00 in the morning on a Sunday, I get them done. But if I say I'm just going to get ahead and do 2 or 3 episodes, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, we're at the end of this episode. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us, and we'll look forward to hearing how you make out with your certification and what the next steps are and where you're gonna go from here. Quick reminder to our listeners about the play that Taylor Bloom is directing in New York City at the Soho Playhouse called The Garden, April 1st through the 4th. The link for the tickets is in the description for this episode. Please check it out. Thank you to our listeners. If you have any comments or want to be a part of our show, please email us. It's anothersundaybpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to have you. Erich, another great show.
Indeed.
Great show.
Roll Tide.
Last word to you, my friend.
Just remember, roll with the changes.
It's Another Sunday Podcast is produced by Erich and Jerry. Technical advisor, Tom Bilodeau. Music composed and performed by Tom Blaze. Check out Tom Blaze's YouTube channel for more music. That's going to do it for this episode of It's Another Sunday Podcast. Thanks for listening.